It is really good to be here. And my name is Phil Antunes. I know some of you, but not a lot of you. I don't make it here too often. I think the last time I was here for a Pathfinder Sabbath. So I am from Abbotsford. That's where I live and attend and am involved there at church. So Pastor Don was asking a few times, hey, when can you come back out? I think I preached a couple of years ago here, but when can you come back out? And it's always that challenge of balancing what we have going on there. Are we up? Okay, good. I'll do a F5. Does F5 work? Sometimes it does. No, it doesn't. Sorry. There we go. Okay. So are we alone out there? That's the question. And so I want to start with an opening question for you. So I want you to turn to the person beside you, hopefully someone you didn't come with, and do you believe in aliens? Answer. Go ahead. Answer the question. Just talk to each other. Do you believe in aliens? Do you believe?
I do.
You do?
Yeah,
Just
depends,
yes.
Depends what kind of alien.
Yes, but.
Yeah.
Angels? Okay. So it's a yes, but. Okay. Yes, that's right. They're not from here. So, yeah. Okay. So do you believe in aliens? How many of you answered yes? Just a bright green glowing yes. Okay. Were there many no's? A few no's, okay. How many were there but yes, but? That's what I heard up here. Yes, but. And the yes, but might be because of this, right? This is, lots of times when you see aliens, it's this green guy coming down in a spaceship, and they're not usually waving happy. Or the other concern with aliens is this, right? They're coming and they're taking our pizza, right? They're taking something from us, right? So we have this picture of aliens that sometimes, yes, but, what do you mean when you say aliens? So I was on a business trip last year with a colleague, and while we were at dinner, talking about all sorts of stuff, she kind of leaned over and she said, hey, Phil, do you believe in aliens? And we're like, wow. The question kind of shocked me a little bit. And but the first thing I said, well, I'm a Christian. And as a Christian, I believe in a heaven, I believe in a God, and I believe in angels. So not what you're thinking of aliens, but I do believe in people that aren't from, or like beings that aren't on Earth. And so that led to a really fascinating discussion on what this could mean in the universe and just the complexity and the enormity of it all. A few months later, I was on another business trip. I travel a bit for work with a different work colleague. And again, over dinner, he leaned over and said, the exact same way, hey, do you believe in aliens? And I was not shocked by the question. I was shocked that I got it again within 2 months, the same way. And so I said, well, I guess it worked last time. Let's see what happens this time. So I kind of gave the same answer, and this one was much more skeptical, much more, really? You believe in God? How can you believe? Science disproves it. And we got into this whole discussion of evolution and creation, and really my belief, when it comes down to it, it takes more faith to believe in evolution than it does in a God. But that's neither here nor there. We discussed this all the way through, and of course, then he ended up to this whole thing. He believes we're all a computer simulation, a matrix kind of, and it's just, wow. Anyway, but there's this question coming up more and more, and I think it's been coming up for a very long time. Are we alone? And so I know this question may be a different one, and I think most of us have thought of it, but it's interesting that we're surrounded by this concept. In mainstream movies, I was kind of just going through, if you think about your Star Wars and your Star Treks and how entrenched those movies are in our culture, not just our culture in North America. You go anywhere and you see Star Wars and Star Trek's references. It's day-to-day conversations that this comes up. And interestingly, how many recent blockbusters, your Avengers, your Avatars, your Dune, and all those things. In fact, I did a little digging in the top 100 movies of all time. 25% are solely based on alien life. That's a lot. That's a lot. So, and we know that media really drives a lot of what we think and believe. They kind of leads us. And I kind of like this slide, right? UFO come and taking their TV. We have their leader, right? At the end of the day, media is kind of driving what we believe and we think, and we just see more and more of this alien presence in everything we're doing, and it's not always a positive alien presence. And it's not just in books and media, it's actually our current science and technology and this goal to find life. One of NASA's chief goals, this is one of their chief goals for scientific investigations on Mars is to seek signs of life. There have also been numerous investigations and studies for extraterrestrial life by various global space agencies. But one is a pretty interesting mission, and that's Voyager. Now, Voyager 1 and 2 were launched in 1977. Now, that might seem like a long time ago for some of you, but for some of us, that's not that long ago. It's all a perspective. But the missions for Voyager included flybys of Jupiter and Saturn. It's the first spacecraft to cross the heliosphere, the boundary where the influences outside our solar system are stronger than those for our sun. So these things are ways out there, way beyond our solar system. And these nuclear-powered Voyagers are still sending back limited. I think if you guys follow the news, I like to watch this stuff, so I always get news on what's going on. They had to shut it down. They had to reboot it back up. They've really been having to work on the Voyager crafts. They've been really struggling. But they are currently traveling 61,500 kilometers an hour. That's about 17 kilometers a second. And they are currently over 24 billion kilometers from Earth. Okay, so this, of course, is not a picture of it, but this is just kind of what it could look like out there. There's nothing to take a picture of it. And it's just interesting that the further it gets away, and they're nuclear powered, so they have plutonium in them, and the half-life is decreasing, so they're having to shut down more and more instruments as they get further and further away just to try to keep them alive for a little bit longer. But when we talk about this thing 24 billion kilometers away, and at that distance it takes almost 22 and a half hours, almost one light day, for communication to reach Earth and then back. So it's taking almost a day. It's a long ways. Now, I want to just pause for a second and just take a quick deviation, a quick side tour, because the concept of a billion is sometimes hard to grasp, and we're going to use this word quite a bit. So my wife used to teach grade 3 for years, and she had this really interesting book that how much is a million and how much is a billion. And from that book, it's a billion seconds is about 32 years. So that's when you start putting a billion seconds at 32 years. Anyone 32 years old here or close to it? Right there, you're a billion seconds old. Does that make you feel older or younger? What does that do? What does that do to you? How long would it take to count to a billion? 1, 2, 3. How long would it take to count to a billion? What do you think? Nope. 96 years. The reason why, because when you get to 100,000, 130,000, it takes longer. So if you average about 3 to 4 seconds per number, it takes 96 years just to count to a billion. So just trying to put this in perspective. But now this has really helped. So here's a dime. We all know what the Canadian dime looks like. That's 1.2 millimeters thick. Okay? So if we take 10 dimes, we know that's 12 millimeters thick. Okay, right there. What we got there. If we have 100 dimes, just to be helpful here, so 100 dimes is, that's 100 dimes right there. So my question to you is, if you were to lay dimes down, starting here, and I'll give you a hint, go east, where would you get to with 1 billion dimes? If you were to stack them up on their side, like that, how far would 1 billion dimes get you? Come on, give me some cities. Sorry? Calgary, you're not far enough. Toronto's a little too far. It's Regina, actually. As the crow flies, it's Regina. So that is 1 billion. You think about these little things, 1 billion of these little things laying on their side would get you to Regina. That's a long way. So that just helps you kind of fathom how big 1 billion is. It also helps you fathom that our federal deficit is going to be 40 billion. But let's not go there. Okay. So back to our alien life. So what does Voyager have to do with this? This thing's a long ways away, 24 billion kilometers away from Earth. What does this have to do with it? Now, an interesting thing is Voyager is carrying a golden record. I'm not making this up. This is a LP record. This was state-of-the-art technology at the time, and I don't know if anyone remembers this, but I do remember hearing talk about this golden record. And again, state-of-the-art, this is an LP record. This is the epitome of technology back then. And on this record contains sounds and images to portray the diversity of life and culture on Earth in the event that is ever encountered by extraterrestrial life. Kind of interesting. So, of course, curiosity got the best of me, and I listened to various clips, and there was everything from baby crying to a horse cart, to a chimpanzee screaming, to Beethoven, to Mozart, to Billy Willie Johnson's Dark Was the Night. Like, there's just all sorts of sounds and things on this record. I'm just like, wow. And here's just try to fathom this for a second. At the speed it's going to be 40,000 years till it gets to the nearest solar system that it could be intercepted by. 40,000, so this is the size of the expanse of what we're talking about. This is not another galaxy, this is within our Milky Way, okay? 40,000 years. Now, as you guys, I'm really not against space travel exploration. It's this pushing technology and helping us to understand what's going on that allows for developments in technology and advances that have benefited humankind. It is just to note that it seems that more of societal and technological focus is on space for exploration than many of us realize. And I don't know if what's on your news feeds, that sometimes our Google feeds tailor directly to us. We all kind of know we get into these echo chambers. But in the past 12 months, India, Japan, and a private US group have all landed unmanned crafts on the moon in the last 12 months. Russia attempted, but they failed. They crashed. And one of the goals of all these things is to establish a base on the moon. They want to be able to get there and establish a base there. And one of the things is mining. I'm involved in mining, and that is just a massive discussion in the mining industry. I know we think we're not going to mine an asteroid. No, it will happen. We're not sure how soon, but everyone agrees that China will probably be the first to do it. Again, deviation, but just to put a little bit of perspective on what's going on and a little bit of a detour. Now, back to our question, could there be life out there? Now, this is this is where things could start to hurt your head. We know our Milky Way galaxy. Remember how much 1 billion is. Our Milky Way galaxy has an estimated 100 to 400 billion stars in it. It takes almost 100, remember, it takes almost 100 years to count to 1 billion, right? And it would just take 40,000 years just to count the stars in our galaxy. That's just not the planets, just the stars. If we were to start 1, 2, 40,000 years just to count them in our galaxy. Okay, now this is where things really start to get crazy. And it measures 100,000 light years across. Remember, Voyager's traveling 20, whatever, I can't remember how much, it's traveling fast, 21,000 kilometers an hour, right? And it's traveled one light day. Our galaxy measures about 100,000 light years across. It's kind of just makes your head start to spin. And if that doesn't make your head start to spin, I'm going to try to play this, and it's on YouTube, so let's see if I may get an ad, and I may have to pull out my thing here. Am I going to get an ad? Yes, I did. Sorry. Give me a second. Oh, no. Give it a second. Here we go. Skip. Because I don't have the free. Come on. My apologies. My apologies, everyone. So, please show. It's not showing. Can you show that from back there? So, with the naked eye, go ahead and play that. With the naked eye, we can kind of see 3 galaxies, other galaxies, from where we're standing on Earth here. And only one you can see from the northern hemisphere. This is the Andromeda galaxy. This is the highest resolution picture ever taken by the Hubble. This took several days to take this picture, just focusing in. So you can see this is zooming in. This thing is 2.5 million light years away. Yes, 2.5 million light years away. Just look at this thing zooming in here. So this was released by NASA, I think 5 years ago now. All those little dots, and remember, we're zooming in on a zoom in on a zoom in. All those little dots are stars, not planets, we're just seeing the brightest of the stars. And remember, we're seeing this in 2 dimensions. This is 3-dimensional. If that just doesn't start to make your head hurt at the enormity and the immensity. So astronomers estimate that Andromeda has about 400 billion stars in it, similar to our galaxy. Just look at that. I just keep watching this thing. It's just pretty amazing. Just look at all those specks. And to think those are bigger than our sun. And then it zooms in towards the center of the galaxy. I'll let it play because it's just fascinating. So again, we know this one. This was again by Hubble. Oh, back in 2015. My apologies. So one galaxy. Now, we'll let it keep going, and I'll keep talking in the background. So, Mario Livio, he's an astrophysicist at the Space Telescope Science Institute, and he operates Hubble telescope that took this thing. He's also written a really interesting book, Is God a Mathematician? It's a very interesting author. He's written several things. So now we're looking at a portion of one galaxy. This is a portion of one galaxy. He estimates that there are between 200 and 500 billion galaxies in the universe. Okay, so we're looking at, well, you can't grasp it, how big everything is. Some have even estimated this, that no, they think the galaxies could be into the trillions. But if we run with this 200 billion galaxies, with each hundreds of billions of stars, it would take over 400 million years of continuous counting just to count the stars. Okay, this is just the enormity of we can't put this together. So the question If you can switch back, Andy, thank you. To me. Am I there? The question is, are we alone out there? What does the Bible have to say? We see in Revelations, not quite up yet. I know he's working on it. Sorry, I gave him a curveball. It's computer? That's me. You're blaming me now. Oh, man. I like that. I will do a project again here. It dropped. There we go. Now I went to the beginning. Did I? Yeah. Sorry, I'll go quickly here. So, Revelation 12, 7-9. And war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought with the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought. But they did not prevail, nor was a place found for them in heaven any longer. So the great dragon was cast out, that serpent of old called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. He was cast to earth, and his angels were cast with him. So we see that there was a war. There's heaven and there's earth. There's a separation there. And Satan, unfortunately, has been banished here, right? Other interesting biblical references to where Satan spends his time is Job 1 and 2, right? We're familiar with this one. That now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came among them. And the Lord said to Satan, "From where do you come?" Satan answered the Lord and said, "From going to and fro on the earth and walking back and forth on it." So again, there's clearly a heaven where the Godhead and his angels call home, and then there is earth where we, and unfortunately, Satan and his cronies live. And I think most Christians would agree with that. That's the conversation we were having. Yeah, we do believe in extraterrestrials. Again, the word alien just comes with so many green men connotations, but we do believe in extraterrestrials as Christians. But what about other worlds? Well, there are numerous spiritual writers that have written on interactions with alien lives. Unfortunately, their interactions, with and receiving messages, right? So again, we get a bad rap. A few years ago, an unfortunate example is Marshall Applewhite, leader of the Heaven's Gate religious cult. I don't know if anyone remembers that news. He led a mass suicide of 38 followers so their spirit could join the alien spaceship that was hiding behind the Hale-Bopp comet in 1997. Right? So we have these, not stable people getting messages from outer space that don't align with, I think Satan has allowed them to use, using that. But there are numerous Christian writers and philosophers that have written this on well. C.S. Lewis has published a lot of material dealing with questions, as many did others. And of course, Ellen White discussed extraterrestrial life, and that she never actually set out to prove extraterrestrial life. She just assumed from her visions a universe that expressed the principle of plenitude. And the principle of plenitude is something that most other Christians have also espoused, which means that the vast universe, God wouldn't just create empty space. He would fill the universe with worlds and populate those worlds with beings. Through the principle of plenitude, he would fill it. Now, just another aside, Ellen White, she's been misquoted to say she saw people on Jupiter. That's false. She never wrote that. That's something else. Again, people just taking what they wanted to hear and running with it. But contrary to this idea espoused by so many Christian writers and philosophers, there's also what is known as the Fermi principle. The Fermi principle is, in short, the discrepancy between the lack of conclusive evidence of advanced extraterrestrial life and the apparently high likelihood of its existence. So, to put it simply, if it's so easy, someone from somewhere must have come calling by now, right? Like, where are they all? If there is where are they all? Well, C.S. Lewis mused to this point that the vast interstellar distances might well be to protect them from us. This Calvin and Hobbes. Sometimes I think the surest sign that intelligent life exists elsewhere in the universe is that none of them None of it has tried to contact us. Right? It's a good point. But the idea of plentitude for me just can't be ignored. Now, my wife and I used to do a lot of scuba diving before our son came along. We just started up again. It's kind of exciting. We just started scuba diving again. And I got to tell you, every time I go underwater, I just can't thinking about how incredible and astounding color, diversity of life that we see. And none of that was really ever known until the last 60 years, when you think about it. I really didn't know what was underwater. In fact, even when we're down there, we're limited to the very upper reaches, and we're limited by our air time. We can't go deep, we can't go far, we're just limited. But the amount we see is always just astounding. Now, take a look at this slide here. What is this? You guys all know what this is? You guys have the ocean right here? It's a barnacle. Ugly, gray, painful if you walk on them, painful if you fall on them. We all know. Do not mess with these things. They're not pleasant to be around. Ugly, they look ugly and lifeless. But once you're underwater, this is what happens to a barnacle. They open up, and which you call the feathers dusters, and they reach out these extremely colorful fans, and they're just reaching, and they're constantly doing this, and they're turning. It's fascinating to watch, and just look at the color. And the amount of times my wife can attest, I'll just kind of lay on the bottom and just watch, just look down inside. Sometimes it looks like a tulip. Like, when you look right down into a tulip, just the color and the complexity of what's inside a barnacle. A barnacle. Ugly, useless, lifeless-looking barnacle. But if we believe in a creator God, and if that God does this with a barnacle, how much more a neighboring solar system or galaxy? What has he done with any one of the 400 billion stars in our galaxy? What has he done in the 400 billion stars of the Andromeda galaxy? And don't forget what the Bible repeatedly calls God, creator. They call him a creator God. That's his very title. And if that's his title, he's not just going to create Earth and our local celestial system in 7 days and call it good for eternity. He's going to keep on creating. So do I believe in aliens? Yes, but. I'm a yes, but person. Ephesians 2:19, now therefore you are no longer strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints and the members of the household of God. Hebrews, all these people, this is from the faith chapter, were still living by faith when they died. They did not receive the things promised. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance, admitting they were foreigners and strangers on earth. You see where I'm going here. People who say such things show that they are looking for a country of their own. If they hadn't been thinking of a country they had left, they would have had an opportunity to return. Instead, they were longing for a better country, a heavenly one. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared a city for them. And Philippians, for our citizenship is in heaven, from which we also eagerly wait for the Savior, the Lord Jesus Christ, who will transform our lowly body, that it may be conformed to his glorious body, according to the working by which he is able even to subdue all things to himself. So now, just hold on here. Let's step through this. If we are fellow citizens and saints of the members of the household of God, if we are foreigners and strangers on earth, if our citizenship is in heaven, what would you call someone whose citizenship is not of earth? An alien. So who are the aliens? We are. We are the aliens, right? In the cosmic vastness, this is important. We are not alone. But I do believe from what the Bible says that our world alone, and Ellen White, our world alone has sinned, and the entire rest of the universe is in unison with God's original intent for creation. They are waiting for this war between God and Satan to end and for us to be reunited with God. We are outside. We are the aliens. They're not coming to us. They're waiting for this war to be over. John 14:3. If I go to prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you with me, that you may be where I am. So, we have this famous picture. This is known as the most famous picture. There's several references. This is the most famous picture of Earth. Right there, that little, have you guys seen this one, the pale blue dot? That little speck. See that little speck? And that's the picture of Earth. So back to Voyager, our Voyager craft. Remember traveling at 24,000 kilometers, the 24 billion kilometers? That is a picture it took in 1990. Now, this is also coupled often when you see this picture with Dr. Carl Sagan's speech that goes along with it. Now, Dr. Sagan, he played a leading role in the U.S. space program and he was the one that actually briefed the Apollo astronauts before they went to the moon. Sagan helped design and manage the Mariner missions, the Viking missions, and several other craft missions to outer space, including Voyager 1 and 2. Now, his was the original idea in 1981 to use the cameras on one of the two Voyager spacecraft to image Earth. Listen to this. He realized that because the spacecraft were so far away that the images might not show much. This was precisely why Sagan and other members of the Voyager team felt they were needed. They wanted humanity to see Earth's vulnerability, and our home is just a tiny, fragile speck in this cosmic ocean. So on February 13th, 1990, I remember I told you they were nuclear powered. So they turned on those nuclear things. They warmed up the cameras for 3 hours. It took 3 hours to warm up Voyager enough to spin it around, and they started taking pictures. And this picture was taken on February 14th, 1990, just 34 minutes before Voyager 1 powered off its cameras forever. It used all the energy it could for those cameras. Now it's just on minimal maintenance mode for other instruments. But there's Earth. Now, his speech, I'm going to read sections of it because it's a fascinating one. Look at that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you've ever heard of. Every human being who ever was lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering, thousands of confidence, religions, ideologies, economic doctrines, every hunter, forger, every hero, coward. I'll skip forward. Every mother, father, hopeful child, inventor, explorer, skipping every superstar, supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there on that a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. The earth is a very small stage in a vast cosmic arena. This is very true, but an important one, I think. So think of the rivers of blood spilled by all those generals and emperors, so that in glory and triumph they could become the momentary masters of a fraction of a dot. Think of the endless cruelties visited by the inhabitants of one corner of this pixel on the scarcely distinguishable inhabitants on some other. How frequently their misunderstandings, how eager they are to kill one another, how fervent their hatreds. Our posturings, our imagined self-importance, the delusion that we have some privileged position in this universe are challenged by this point of pale light. Our planet is a lonely speck in a great enveloping cosmic dark. In our obscurity, in all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves. That's his perspective. But I disagree. Romans 5:8. This is I know this one's often read, but it's such an important one. But God demonstrates his own love towards us in that while we were still sinners, he didn't wait for us to figure our stuff out. He came to save us. You know when you look up at the night sky and you say, wow, like you're looking at all the stars and you just say, wow. And maybe this has given you a little bit more of a wow perspective. That little blue circle is all we can see of our galaxy. So when we're wowing, it's so big. That's all we can see. We can see maybe maximum 5,000 stars. Maximum. Remember, there are billions. How many billion? 400 billion stars in our galaxy. So we're seeing 5,000 stars, and there's 400 billion stars in our galaxy. So we are wowing over a speck of what God has created. 1 Corinthians 2:9, eye has not seen, nor ear heard, nor have entered into the heart of man the things which God has prepared for those who love him. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made so that people are without excuse. I don't know. You just look at the first, especially 1 Corinthians 2:9, we start to try to think about the enormity of our galaxy. No, I'm not talking the universe, just our galaxy alone. And it starts to hurt. And then what he has created, what he has prepared for those who love him. So I've often had this thought, if you've ever struggled with a conflict at work or your marriage, if you've ever felt that burden of hate, crime, war, and suffering, if you've been beside someone fighting cancer or dying, if you have to lay a loved one to rest, and you've thought there has to be something else. The very fact that we're asking that question, I think we all have inside of us something that transcendence, something bigger than our own life, something else. If this world can't satisfy or fill you, it means that you're made for another world. It means we're not made for here. Why do we have this yearning? It's because there's a place where we won't die, pain. There will be a place of new creation and perfection. Christ came from another world to save ours. We're not hopeless. We're not alone. We're not just a mote of dust. We are the center and the focus of this universe because we are the aliens. And the universe can't wait for us to be reunited with him. And so that's my prayer for you, that you would recognize how big God is. And even in this unfathomable number, his son came here for you. It just makes your head spin if the 400 billion galaxies didn't make your head spin. The fact that the God who created it all loves you so much that he came here to this mote of dust to save you. Please accept his invitation, because what he's got in store for us is going to be astounding. Thank you.